Thank you, Lord, for introducing me to Taylor Swift and several years later, the fiction that she adores. Hello everyone, welcome back to Culture Craving. It's been a while, hands up. I'm having a massive reading spurt. It is the start of March and I've currently read 13 books. That is a record for me, I think. If you know me at all, you know that Taylor Swift is my idol and I adore her. By the way, this is not clothes, this is my dressing gown. Taylor Swift is my idol. I've loved her since I was 9 years old and I thought, why not read the books she's recommended? I'm reading 3 for this video. The first one is Eat, Pray, Love, the second is Gone Girl, and the third one is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. So I am currently this much of the way through Gone Girl. I've done this in about 2 days. It's been a while since I've read a thriller and I'm so glad I picked this one. I have been pleasantly surprised. It is so well written. Just some thoughts so far. Let's start there. If you don't know the story, Nick's wife goes missing and we slowly work out why. It's all about kind of like the unraveling of her disappearance. Now, the reason I think this is so intelligent, it draws a lot, if not explicitly, from Albert Camus' L'Étranger. The idea that Nick, that he is a suspect for the murder of his wife based on his behavior is so Camus. Nick doesn't portray a lot of emotion towards his wife, like he smiles at the wrong time, he doesn't know when is the right time to be friendly and not friendly, and basically this media storm is created against him based on these little snapshots of his personality, and things come out which don't look particularly good for him. The other thing that I think is so intelligent about this is it's very postmodern, very metafictional. But halfway through the story we realise that something we've been reading is not real. Some of the information being given to us is not accurate. And so I think that kind of postmodern, it's very like what Ian McEwan does with Atonement, where you get to the end and you realise at the end of Atonement that it's been a novel within the novel, and so like a lot of the events you've been reading are through the lens of one of the characters. You know, it's very descriptive, a lot of imagery. I'm just addicted to it. I'm so addicted. I'm genuinely considering not going to my class so that I can read this. So let's talk about Eat, Pray, Love for a minute. So this is a book about a woman who travels to 3 countries. Each of them happen to begin with I. It's a true story, it's a memoir. True story is possibly a stretch, but it's a memoir about a woman who goes to Italy, India, and Indonesia, and she discovers things in each place. Eat, pray, love. In Italy, she essentially learns to love herself again after her divorce. We learn that she's been divorced and she's trying to find herself as an independent woman for the first time. She's very much a socialite, which, you know what, was refreshing to read, because a lot of people who write literature are introverts like myself, which is why they read literature in the first place, and why they write literature. So it's quite refreshing to read about an actual social friendly person. So she goes to Italy and she kind of finds happiness and she intuitively eats, lives, she eats where she wants, she shops where she wants, as a completely indulgent thing. Having been to Rome myself, I loved her talking about all the different things there. And then she goes to India. This I found so inspiring, and after having reading this, I really want to do something like this myself. I'm a very spiritual person. But she goes to this ashram in India and she basically does meditation for the several months she is there. She learns to pray, to connect with God, to connect to her body, to understand herself and find peace, essentially, and genuinely real love. Now, I've had snippets of this kind of love because I do yoga very regularly. That presence, being in the now, giving yourself love, I find that through yoga, so I'd love to spend a couple of months doing that. And then in the Indonesia segment, she basically finds someone and she falls in love again. If you read reviews on Goodreads, a lot of them are like, oh, this book is just this woman complaining about her divorce. And don't get me wrong, it is, and about a love that she lost. But that is the backdrop to her finding herself. That was the push that she needed, and I personally found that very interesting. It's a book about a woman in her 30s. How many of them actually are there?
Start your computations.
my god, so I just finished it. It's been like, I have no idea what the time is right now. It could be 1, it could be 4. Like, I do not know, but I've just read like 100 pages. It has been so long since I read a book, and like I had to read it, like I had to finish it, and I had to know what happened. And the thing that's crazy is I actually knew what happens in books. I've seen the film, and I still needed to know, but like it was on a different level. That was one of the best books I've read in a long time, but that could just be because I haven't read like a normal book, like a thriller, in a long time. Interesting and radical kind of interpretations of abuse there. Like when you compare the fake story abuse that Amy tells in her diary and, you know, to the police and everything, to compare that with the real, I mean, I'm aware that all of it's fictional, but real within the story, actual abuse. I mean, Amy is an abuser. I mean, you don't get many female abusers in stories, and this book did it so well, because they didn't do it like she abused like a man would. She abused like a woman would, using her female body as part of her control. It was a masterpiece. It's not about some female victim who's being stalked or murdered. It's about a woman who's kind of nuts, but she's also so intelligent. So yes, there's Amy as the abuser, and then there is Desi, who is a different form of, again, this control, manipulation. So that was just a very interesting look at control. He was very much, he was like an incel nice guy. The feminist in me wanted to be on her side, but actually I think the fact that I just couldn't be is also a massive feminist thing. She made her a very unlikable character, but not in the sort of stereotypical ways that you don't like a woman. Thank you, Lord, for introducing me to Taylor Swift, and several years later, the fiction that she adores. My initial reaction to Conversations with Friends, it's just disappointment. It's so unbelievably average. I thought Sally Rooney was going to be like really great with imagery, or like, I know that it's like a sort of what's inside her sort of protagonist's head, so I did expect that, but I don't know, it just reads to me like just ordinary novel, like a YA novel even. So far I'm not actually seeing anything new. I'm actually really disappointed because I expected to be a Sally Rooney stan. I imagined, having watched Normal People, that I was going to love it because it's going to be this beautiful like imagery of France, and I could just like imagine Europe. The ideas in it are just not revolutionary. Okay, so there's like a radical feminist lesbian. Well, I mean, can you tell that my favorite color's pink? I think now that I've got over it being underwhelming, I can try and appreciate it, you know? So I was so amazed to see these conversations about periods and period pain and the female body coming in. I mean, you wouldn't think it was an avoided topic. I mean, the amount we talk about periods nowadays, you would think it's not taboo anymore. And yet I was genuinely shocked to see it play a part of the narrative, as it should. I mean, they actually play a big part in most women's lives. Basically, something happens to her body, I don't actually know what yet, and at first they think it's a miscarriage, and she imagines therefore that she's had a baby, that she is pregnant, and that she's having a miscarriage. Then she finds out that she wasn't, and she goes through this sort of grief thing where she was like, I'm now mourning something that never existed in the first place. And I think that is incredibly profound. I think that the protagonist, I've seen a lot more of her nuances. I enjoy the queer stuff. I think thematically it is broaching subjects which haven't been broached before. What are you doing? You cannot lick yourself on camera. It's kind of rude. Just doing some yoga. It's a little bit chilly. It is not It's definitely not as warm as it looks right now. I think I was quick to judge this book. I still stand by what I said, like the language is relatively unimpressive. It's a fascinating dynamic between these four people. I mean, I've seen a lot of parallels with normal people. I mean, looking at, you know, rough sex seems to be a thing in both stories, using that as like self-punishment and self-harm. Like, first of all, I would have never expected this affair in the first place, because I guess it's a relatively taboo idea that it's not just like going to blow this family apart. It doesn't have the moralistic, if you do this it will break apart a family and break up, you know, the traditional, you know, the marriage. It just looks at it as what it is. I think that is in itself pretty revolutionary, to look at having a extramarital relationship of whatever kind as anything other than this is going to blow your lives apart and be an absolute disaster. Pretty unprecedented. So I just finished Conversations with Friends. We're going to start with this. I think the Conversation with Friends very much redeemed itself. It's very easy to read, you know, I've read it in the past day. One thing that I haven't already mentioned is looking at mental health and the ways that bad mental health manifests itself. It's not just self-harm, it's not just cutting yourself. In this book, it comes in so many forms. It comes through not eating properly, being ill and not telling anyone, not even like, look, this girl is really struggling, pity her, victim, but just like, this is a thing that she's doing. Near the end of the story, it's not a plot point, but she kind of comes to realize that this idea of the couple and the, you know, monogamous relationship, kind of not what is right for her. I thought it was done really well. How maybe it didn't have to be quite so binary. Like I said, I was underwhelmed by it, and I do kind of still stand by my original statement that it's very accessible. Maybe literature doesn't have to be inaccessible to be good, and I do have to be aware of that. I read a lot of very heavy classics, so when I find something that language wise and imagery wise is very toned down, I think I have a tendency to go, well, if it's not challenging me in that, you know, linguistic literary way, do I get the same value out of it? And I think in this case, yes, because it definitely challenges you thematically. It makes you question so many things about what you initially considered was true. Like, a story about the middle class like this is kind of useless without the imagery that goes along with it, and I just feel like this lacked it to the extent that I enjoy. Yeah, 4 out of 5. What does this say about Taylor Swift? She's pretty socialist, but we kind of already knew that because of Miss Americana. Thinks a lot about what it means to be a woman, very interested in feminism and gender sort of discourses. Possibly a woman who has struggled with mental health. I say possibly, but I mean, she's one of the most famous women on the planet. Of course she's gonna struggle. I don't know why people think fame equates happiness. Okay, Gone Girl. I feel like I've expressed my love for Gone Girl enough in this video. Basically, I thought it was an excellent thriller, very well written. I'm also gonna give it a 4, but I would say that Gone Girl is better than Conversations with Friends. But yeah, I'm still gonna give it a 4. Maybe Conversations with Friends is actually more like a 3.5 because I didn't necessarily enjoy reading it. Gone Girl, I was like all the way through. I just don't think it's, you know, like one of my best books ever. Perhaps because I feel like I've seen a lot of it before in other thrillers, maybe. What does it say about Taylor Swift? Loves a thrill. Again, women. Looking at women as complicated people. Likes a popular book. I mean, Gone Girl is popular and there's no avoiding that. It's not an inaccessible book. Again, it's literarily clever, it's intelligent, but it's not difficult. You could understand, you could get the gist of it no matter what kind of reader you were. Actually, I've seen some reviews on Goodreads about Gone Girl where they're like, but I don't like her. That is not the point of reading. It's not to like her characters. Like, they're morally corrupt because that makes her a real woman. I would also say from this book, Taylor Swift likes looking at the complexes of marriage. Considering she has always kind of framed herself as a romantic, that is not what I would take away from her reading this novel, nor from Conversations with Friends. Considering Taylor Swift considers herself so much a romantic, I would not apply that to either of these. I will also say that I feel like Taylor Swift has taken very safe bets with the books she has said publicly that she likes. Because bear in mind, what Taylor Swift says she likes, if that person then comes out as a truly awful person, her name is attached to that forever. And if other people don't think it's a good book, her name is attached to it. So anything she says she likes is part of her brand. And you have to really bear that in mind with Taylor Swift. She thinks about everything she says publicly in a lot of detail, in a big way. Let's move on to Eat, Pray, Love. I really love a self-help memoir book. It is my easy read that I allow myself. I much prefer reading a good self-help memoir to a trashy novel. Love them. I love a good woman's story. If you are feeling spiritual, which I feel like I was at that moment in time and am at the moment, I think it's a good book. I also think it's a good book to read during COVID-19 because it reminds you that look at what you have available to you. Look at trying to be present in this present moment. Peace and happiness don't come from going out and stuff. It comes from within ultimately, and COVID is actually a great opportunity to explore that. That's kind of something that I've taken away from this book. She likes a story about female independence, strong, complicated women. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please go and subscribe to Culture Craving, my channel. I talk about books, TV, film, but I'm going to be talking about books a lot more because I've become like a real book nerd. Not that I haven't always been. I mean, I study comparative literature. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.